Hello and welcome to another episode of Schlock Tactics, the movie podcast where we believe that badder is better and aim to review the summer camp slash-em-ups so that you don't have to. My name is Ash and I'm joined once again by Mark. Oh, hi Mark.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Are you excited for our camping trip this weekend?
I am, yeah.
Yes, folks, we are going on a camping trip to a festival this weekend. But before we do that, we are going to review for you an iconic summer camp slasher franchise, the Sleepaway Camp franchise. In fact, we're going to review the trilogy for you, which we don't do very often on the podcast, but we thought we'll do 3 in a row for you here. If you missed the last episode we did, you can still go back and check that out. We did review 2 movies from the Leprechaun franchise, Leprechaun in Space and Leprechaun in the Hood, 2 movies that are easily as ridiculous as they sound. And a lot of people seem to like that episode, so go back and check that out in the archive. But today, as I said, we are talking about a trilogy. They actually did more than 3 films, but we've chosen to do the first 3 Sleepaway Camp films. Starting with the very first Sleepaway Camp from 1983, now a cult classic. Mark, what were your first impressions of Sleepaway Camp? Had you ever heard of this film before?
I'd heard of it, really didn't know anything about it other than the title. Yeah.
Well, it was also known as Nightmare Vacation, which I don't think is as good a title.
Yeah.
Sleepaway Camp does tell you all you need to know about the film.
Yeah.
And you're probably expecting something like Friday the 13th, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's quite generic. It was pretty much what you would expect, I think.
So yeah, for people that don't know, this was a slasher film from 1983, which came out sort of in the height of the slasher, really. Halloween and Friday the 13th that had major success before this film, so this was another example of that, and also films like My Bloody Valentine and The Burning. Slasher films were not always set during summer camps, but they seem to be the cheapest and most effective way of killing off loads of teenagers in one load. So Sleepaway Camp, is actually set in Camp Arawak, is the actual name of the camp, just like Camp Crystal Lake is also known as Camp Blood. Mm-hmm. Camp Arawak is known as Sleepaway Camp. And the film opens with kind of a flashback of 2 children at the lake with their father. We cut to a young couple driving a speedboat, and the girl says, let me drive. Mm-hmm. And the guy's like, oh, God. Women, alright, I guess you can drive. And then she starts driving the boat and she just kind of starts looking behind her. She's not looking what she's doing. She's just a fool. She doesn't know how to operate a speedboat properly. And sadly she runs right through this young family in the water there. So this speedboat accident sadly kills the father and the son, leaving just the daughter alive out of this family. So then we do fast forward 8 years after this, and young Angela, basically living with her auntie and her cousin. Her auntie has taken her in and looked after her, and she gets shipped off. Angela and Ricky, her cousin, both get shipped off to Camp Arawak here for the summer. As soon as we get to the camp, we get some very shifty adult characters, to say the least, standing outside of the staff basically at this camp are very inappropriate, and one character in particular.
I've just written horrible paedophile.
Yeah, one character is a horrible paedophile. And I think this is your first indication that this movie, and indeed this franchise, is highly politically incorrect.
Yeah.
This is going to be an exploitation film, and there's going to be some horrible things that have not dated well at all, and this paedophile character has some just gross dialogue. Ricky, he wants to meet up with his friend from camp last year called Judy, who his friend tells him, oh, you should see her now, motioning to his chest. Judy Big Tits, I've written on here, who's kind of the resident bitch. She rocks a wonderful, massive side ponytail at various points. Lots of small jean shorts as well on the women and the men. Straight away, Angela has trouble fitting in with the rest of the girls. She doesn't talk at all. She's completely mute, really. We don't hear her talk for a very long time in the film. We get this character in the film, who I loved, called Ron, or Ronnie, who is like the head counsellor. And he's just this huge, his arms and his pecs, and he's squeezed into these little tank tops and shorts as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was doing before this, but wrestler, bodybuilder. But he seems to be a nice guy, and he says, well, Angela will take you into the kitchen and we'll find you something to eat. But unfortunately, in the kitchen we do have this nonce chef hanging about. Obviously, he takes Angela into the back room to, quote, find her something to eat, and is just unbuckling when Ricky walks in and interrupts him, and he says, "Don't either of you tell anyone about this, or I'll kill you," And then he does get his later on when checking on something boiling in a massive vat.
And that's with that, yeah.
Some accident waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And he has to stand on a chair to look into this vat because it's so tall and like teetering on a table. And then we see an unseen killer.
Point of view shot of someone coming in to pull it all over. And
kind of classic slasher POV shot, or like a Italian giallo style. It's just the hands that you see appear to be the hands of a man. Pushing this guy into the vat, and he falls on the floor, and there's this really prolonged kind of close-up of his head where he's screaming really over the top.
Yeah.
And you get the sense that maybe something more was meant to be happening with the effect, but nothing is really happening. I think maybe someone's pumping air into his face, and some blisters are sort of just like shaking a little bit. Yeah, I think they told him that we're going to operate something in your makeup, and it's going to look gross, so go nuts, and he did, but the makeup didn't really match up with it, so it's just this paedophile guy screaming on the floor, and that's the end of the dirty chef there. The owner of the camp, who's a guy called Mel, he wants to keep everything quiet. He's a bit like the mayor in Jaws. He doesn't want anything to ruin his business, his summertime business. So he's like, well, we'll get rid of this guy, and you over there, you're the head chef now. Oh, okay. And you all get $50 extra a week if you stay on and don't tell anyone what happened. So
pay him more to keep him quiet.
Yeah, it's a good idea. We get a wonderful scene here where all the kids are playing baseball, again in like tiny denim shorts. We see a sort of a divide between the nerdier kids, including Ricky, our character, and the jocks. There's still that kind of divide. One of the kids playing baseball is sort of looks like he's playing like a Game Boy or like a calculator.
Yeah.
He's so nerdy that he's playing a calculator for fun, maybe. I couldn't quite see what he was doing. One of the jocks shouts at the nerds, "Why don't you eat shit and die?" And he says, "Oh, yeah? Why don't you eat shit and live?" Oh,
good comeback.
I have to think about that one. It's not a bad comeback. There seems to be a constant, like, really lame disco going on in the main sort of building, which is just a sort of a vehicle for the teenagers to try and fuck each other, basically.
Yeah.
Seems to be the case. Two of these jocks sort of try their luck with Angela, even though she's still not speaking. Chat lines such as, "Hey Angela, how come you're so fucked up?" To which she doesn't have any reply, of
They're
course.
sort of asking her out at the start, and then they just sort of start insulting her instead.
Yeah. If you can't go one way, go another way, I suppose. Yeah. Ricky's mate Paul steps up here as the love interest, and she starts making eyes at him straight away. So you think, oh, something's happening. She speaks her first words of the film.
Because he's actually been nice to her.
Yeah, he's just been nice, and he hasn't told her that she's insane. Now, after this sort of half-assed disco, a lot of the kids sneak out to the lake and start dicking about in boats. I don't know really what they're doing. Getting high, getting drunk, trying to fuck each other, trying to encourage people to go skinny dipping. There's lots of quite butch-looking jock kind of kids wearing like crop tops and jean shorts. But there is quite a cool scene here where one of the canoes gets capsized. The camera shoots from inside the capsized canoe, where obviously his head is just above the water, facing him. But then you see our unknown killer's head pop up in front of the camera, so you still don't know who it is.
Pull down, and then you see a hand coming out, kind of thing.
Yeah, he gets drowned here and under the canoe. We do get some quite cool effects the next day when he's discovered. Turns over the canoe, and there's Kenny all sort of like wizened by the lake water and stuff, and like waterlogged, and like a snake comes out of his mouth. So I thought that was quite decent. It was a bit like the head in Jaws, like the watery severed head in Jaws.
It was more impressive than the guy's burnt face in the kitchen.
It was the most impressive makeup thus far. Yeah, this one they can't keep quiet because the next shot is it's ambulance people carrying a body bag in front of loads of traumatized kids looking on. So yeah, it's over. Everyone knows
someone has died.
At least one person has died.
Yeah.
Paul and Angela start getting on a lot better. He invites her to go see a movie in the rec room. They have their first kiss, and of course this causes even more problems for Angela because the rest of the girls are kind of give her a hard time or maybe jealous of her getting a bit of action because doesn't seem like many other people are. It seems like this is the most action you're seeing here. Judy is sort of getting jealous and annoyed that Angela's sort of getting on well with a boy. There's also a character called Meg, one of the more senior counsellors who's kind of a bitch as well. She starts freaking out because Angela won't sort of talk to her or acknowledge her. She starts like shaking her by the shoulders. Yeah. What's wrong with you?
Why don't you talk?
You're mental. Why don't you acknowledge me? It's, I think, probably the correct response to that kind of person shaking you by the shoulders. You know, there's a great quote here from Judy, who's trying to get back at Angela, and she says, "You're a carpenter's dream, flat as a board and in need of a good screw," which was amazing. They're having a water fight, and one of the kids throw like a water bomb at Angela. This person, mere hours later, is having a shit in the toilets, and somebody puts a wasp's nest through the sort of screen there, and killing him as well. So
that was kind of gruesome as well, ish.
You didn't see much of it.
No.
The suggestion was quite
suggesting,
bad.
Yeah.
Sitting on minding your own business, having a shit, and a wasp's nest drops on your head.
Absolutely covered in wasps,
Quite so
that you couldn't even see his face.
Angela and Paul sort of getting down to business on a beach. Some heavy petting on the beach, and we get this really weird flashback, which doesn't even really make sense when you've seen the whole film. But it's basically a flashback where it's revealed that Angela's dad is gay.
Yeah.
He's in bed with another man. And the bed's kind of like spinning around, and then you see Angela and her brother that was killed in the boating accident facing each other, sitting in bed, just kind of like pointing at each other.
Yeah.
This is all kind of like, hinting at what will come later in the film, but until that point, you're probably pretty confused by this.
Yeah.
At the same time, they're having, again, some sort of social, again, and a pretty lame disco in the main building, not much going on, just cheesy 80s music, and teenagers trying to fuck each other again. Judy actually doesn't go to the social, she stays in her room, because she's expecting her boyfriend to come over, and she ends up getting curled to death by curling tongs. An unknown person comes into the room, and we just see their silhouette in the doorway. Death by curling tongs, however you want to imagine that's what's happened. Mel, the old guy here, is convinced that it's Ricky who's been killing everyone, which would make sense. He's the cousin of Angela, and all these people have been dicks to Angela. So it would make sense if that were the case. So Mel is convinced of it, and he again starts acting pretty inappropriately towards a child, starts like chucking him about and shaking him about.
Yeah.
It's you, isn't it? You've been killing everyone, you little shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then moments later, Mel gets an arrow through the neck.
Yeah.
So it can't be Ricky. Police are turning up on the scene. I don't know if you noticed here, there was a policeman with a ludicrous fake moustache.
Yeah. I could not notice that.
It was like the Beastie Boys Sabotage video.
Yeah.
It was this kind of like duct tape moustache.
Ridiculously thick.
Yeah. Luxurious, taped on moustache. We get to the climax of the film where Angela invites Paul to go skinny dipping. She didn't seem like she was up for that.
No.
She's got a bit of a crazy look in her eye.
And he's like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. She looks a bit disconnected from reality and asks him to go skinny dipping.
And he's all excited.
See, everyone's looking for Angela, looking for Paul. Lots of dead bodies turning up, and the police happen upon Angela on the beach, naked, cradling Paul in her arms. And then we get another flashback to where Angela is first going to live with her auntie, but it's a little boy with a bandage on his head, fresh from the accident, and the auntie reveals that, yes, I think you're going to be a girl, not a boy. I've already got a boy. We don't need another boy. I've always wanted a little girl.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do. You will be a little girl. And then you cut back to the beach, and Angela is stood up with the severed head of Paul and a knife in the other hand, and the camera just pulls out in a really iconic shot of her naked, and she is indeed a boy.
With a crazed look in her eye, but she's looking to the side.
Yeah,
like,
iconic facial expression, this weird like.
Probably the
noise.
coolest part of the film, actually.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like it's more iconic than anything else in the film.
Yeah.
And of course, the reveal you see is that she is a boy. She has it hanging out on the beach, and Big Ron, the bodybuilder guy. Oh my god, she's a boy. And that's it. Just quite a hard crash to the credits.
Yeah.
With just her face frozen. I think it goes like bright green or something, and just this like cheesy 80s music kicks in. I have to assume you didn't know that this was going to happen.
No.
So you are someone who watched Sleepaway Camp without knowing this twist, one of the most almighty twists in all of horror.
Yeah.
I have to bask in your innocence for a moment. What was it like? What did you figure out any of this beforehand that this was coming? What did you think of the twist?
I mean, I thought that she would be the killer, but I didn't think about the whole sexual
You wouldn't,
thing.
really.
No.
No, there's no hint at this at all.
Yeah, I just guess I didn't.
But you weren't expecting that.
No.
It's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing quite like that. Seeing that twist for the first time.
Yeah.
Like you say, I think most people were suspecting she was going to be the killer. That's not the twist.
Yeah.
There's another rug pull coming.
Yeah.
And like we said earlier, it's not a very politically correct film, and obviously this twist hasn't dated that well. With our 2018 eyes, obviously looking back at this twist that someone is a different gender than you thought they were, is not dated very well, in terms of transgender and how we view transgender things nowadays. But I don't think they were trying to make any kind of lofty commentary on anything. It was meant to be a big twist and a rug pull. Oh, you thought this was a girl? No, it's not. And I think that's what makes it a great twist.
The transphobic debate didn't exist back then.
No, it didn't. And it's not really discussed in the film at all. And to be fair, she was the victim in the film, as well as the killer, which is an interesting kind of point. And also, she never chose to live as a girl. She was forced to live as a girl. So we didn't know whether she actually wanted to be a girl or not. None of that was discussed.
Yeah.
And it's only watching this film with today's mindset that you would even think of all that stuff. No one in 1983 was thinking of transgender politics and anything like that. It was just like, holy shit, I thought this was a girl for the whole film. Yeah. And the way they did the shot, they just obviously had a male actor and her head superimposed on top.
Yeah.
Like you say, not even that was enough. They had to have this weird expression and this weird sound. It's just, yeah. Twist aside, what were your overall thoughts of this film? If it hadn't have been the twist, would it have been as good?
I enjoyed it. It wasn't like a twist aside. It wasn't like a huge plot. It was just like a kind of shy girl, and her cousin.
Kind of generic.
There's some murders happening at a camp.
Yeah,
but it was enjoyable.
It's hard to watch it again because once you know that, you can't view it the same again.
No.
And probably if you're watching it for the first time and you don't know that's coming, you're thinking it's pretty by the numbers camp slasher.
Yeah. And
once that happens, you kind of find yourself quickly trying to reevaluate the whole rest of the film in light of it. And I think the first film is entirely validated by that twist. And yeah, so that's the first Sleepaway Camp, kicking off the trilogy in 1983. So after the cult success of Sleepaway Camp, we fast forward to 1988 when they decided to follow it up with Sleepaway Camp 2, subtitle Unhappy Campers. Or Nightmare Vacation 2, but again, I don't know why they're persisting with that alternate title. It is surely Sleepaway Camp by now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. Straight away we do open with a campfire scene, very traditional horror opening. People sitting around the campfire telling scary stories. We get some of the greatest mullets in 80s cinema history. Just almost every one of these young men has a luxurious mullet. We can see from their jumpers that it's now called Camp Rolling Hills, because just as they do in all the Friday the 13th films, once someone gets massacred, you have to change the name to convince anyone to come back to it. So it's now Camp Rolling Hills. Don't know what you're talking about. Camp Arawak? Never heard of it. Camp Rolling Hills. I thought this was quite cool at the beginning, rather than getting like loads of stock footage of the first film, which is what you typically get in horror sequels. We get the plot of the first film recapped in the form of a ghost story by one of the other characters.
I thought that was quite a semi-clever little thing to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, and this film does get a bit more meta and a bit more knowing to the horror genre. So there's obviously one of the stories is about Angela Baker. Just recapping the first film, we do straight away get out of the way that she has now had a sex change and she is now a woman. So I was quite relieved at that point that we weren't going to get any more awkwardness around her being transgender.
Yeah.
She has had a sex change. She is a woman. Let's move on. I was really glad about
Let's
that.
put that to bed.
Yeah, thank God for that. And that wasn't going to be what the character was moving on, which I was glad about. So yeah, all this ghost story talk is broken up by Angela. She's right there in the camp, sort of just off screen. Here is Angela, not played by Felissa Rose from the first film, but played by Pamela Springsteen, sister of Bruce Springsteen. Don't really waste any time here. She's killing someone in the first sort of 5 minutes. Massive log to the head and cuts her tongue off, so she can't tell anyone else about it.
Yeah.
She also can't tell anyone else because she's dead. So that was necessary. We get some opening credits here in the first of a couple of instances of some hair metal in this film, or sort of thrash metal but with hair metal vocals. Tits in the first 5 minutes as well, pretty much, to the girls' dorm room, as we said earlier. A lot more tits, a lot more often in this film. They're just like, let's do it.
And more deaths as well.
A lot more deaths. More deaths and more tits. It's kind of, it's the kind of rule with horror sequels, just more.
That's the trajectory with the horror sequel.
It absolutely is. More is more. And what do horror fans like? Tits and blood. We're in the girls' dorm room again, just girls with their tits out walking around. Angela comes in and she's like, oh, put those tits away. You shouldn't have to show them. But there are two young lads outside, one on each other's shoulders, with a Polaroid camera. It's just like, those are the days when you would have to take your Polaroid camera to try and sneak a picture of some boobs. Different times. And there's sort of a main building here where everyone congregates for their meals, and we get sort of a real quick introduction to a couple of different characters. TC is also the other head counsellor along with Angela. He has got probably the thickest mullet in the film. He's sort of like the equivalent of Ron from the first film. He's not quite as muscular, but he makes up for it with quite a muscular mullet. So he's going to be Angela's kind of counterpart. Also introduced to some characters called the Shit Sisters, with these two sort of stoner characters. We are introduced to Angela's musical abilities as well. She sings the Happy Campers song, and everyone sort of claps and waves their hands around in a sort of weird evangelical sort of moment. There's sort of a weird mix of people that like her and don't like her. She's obviously rebranded and given herself a new identity since murdering everyone in the first film. And we get the idea that she's been into like mental institutions as well and been kind of released into society since then and taken on a new identity. Yeah, we get a poolside scene which is quite fun, quite fast times at Bridgewater High as well.
There's a girl with like a wet top and you can see her bust through it, and then the guy's like, party hats at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, that's Ali.
Not heard that one before.
No, I hadn't heard that one, but I'll try and use it. Ali is the girl that most often gets her tits out.
Yeah.
And she goes in the pool.
Any chance you get.
With a t-shirt on. Then Angela's watching all of this, but she goes into the woods and she does find the Shit Sisters getting pissed, copping off with a bloke as well. So she kind of has a barbecue with them. One of them has passed out. Next thing you know, she wakes up to find her sister as a sort of blackened skeleton. A bit of a barbecue with these two girls. It kind of tells them they shouldn't do drugs, so that's why she's killing them. So we get this kind of Jason Voorhees kind of moralising. She only kills people who are bad, done bad things that you shouldn't do, which is lifted straight out of Friday the 13th. That's exactly what Jason does.
You take drugs, I'm going to set you on fire.
Yeah. In any Friday the 13th film, anyone taking drugs, having sex, they're going to be killed. And Angela is kind of patterned herself after Jason in a weird way. There's a panty raid on the girls' dorm. I've never heard of that either. And it's just where all the male characters run in and steal women's underwear and run out again.
That was really weird.
It's not really touched upon any more than that. It's just something that happens in summer camp.
The girls try and sort of terrorise the boys to get back at them.
So there's a character called Mare who also getting her tits out, one of them as well. And Angela doesn't like this, so she takes her into a car, gets a massive drill and drills her through the head, I guess, and as the blood goes everywhere. And there's sort of a lost property announcement the next day in the mess hall, and TC is like, yeah, we got a few missing items: electric drill, rope, some like hammers, some knives. Like, so the weird thing about this film is that it's kind of meta in that horror movies that we know exist in this universe. They know about Jason and they know about Freddy because they've made a Jason mask and they've made a Freddy mask.
But they've broken the fourth wall.
They have broken the fourth wall. So if anyone hasn't seen the poster for this film, look it up, Sleepaway Camp 2. I'm going to show Mark the poster here that shows how meta the film is.
Just pack as much, like, many references as you can.
Yeah.
Like,
so if people look this up, it's a young girl with a backpack on, with a Jason Voorhees mask and a Freddy glove sticking out the back. Which I think they're probably just trying to rope people into seeing this thinking it's one of those films when it's not.
Yeah, it's just like...
Because they only and they never don't refer to them by name. They're just someone is dressed like Jason Voorhees, someone is dressed like Freddy, and then Angela is dressed as Leatherface.
Yeah.
It's just three like iconic horror characters that exist within this universe.
But it's only briefly comes up.
And I don't know if you recognise the character on that poster. No, because she's not in the film.
Right. Okay. I was going to say, that's Angela. No, it's not Angela.
Same thing with Sleepaway Camp 3. I'll show you the picture for that.
Yeah, that's
Who's that character?
It's no one.
We don't know. So there you go. Sleepaway Camp, a rich tradition of not putting anyone that's in the film on their posters. And also just having weird, quite shit posters. But yeah, this is breaking up the fourth wall. This is Freddy vs. Jason, a good sort of 15 years before we would actually get to see it. But it's actually just some really nerdy kids dressed up as Freddy and Jason, which I can relate to. But we do get Angela's Leatherface impression, and yeah, she chainsaws the shit out of someone, which is quite good. We get a very odd scene of our slutty character Ali is getting down to business in the women's toilets, and I think she's meant to be receiving oral sex from a boy, but his head is roughly around her sort of sternum. Yeah. And she's flailing about like a wild salmon. While Angela is outside going, Ali, are you in there? Are you okay? Yes, I've got cramps. Just got menstrual cramps. It runs in the family. What the fuck are you on about? So that's her getting her toilet cunnilingus. And this leads to another prolonged sex scene. So it's getting real softcore.
Slightly more normal sex scene though.
Yes, it was less fish based.
Wasn't writhing around with a man's head in a navel.
No. But then she is eventually disposed of by getting shoved down a toilet.
Yeah.
And sort of devoured by leeches.
What can you see down there? Shit. What else can you see down there? It's like, I don't know.
What am I meant to be seeing?
Yeah. Why are you quizzing me?
Yeah, what is the right answer here? But she'd never find out because she went down the shitter, literally. She did sort of a performance like the chef from the first film, just popping her head out the toilet every now and then to go, like covered in leeches, goes down again, comes back out, more leeches. Oh my god, this is going on forever. The kill count in this film is quite high, considerably higher than the first film.
Yeah.
Not as high as the third film, but they've got a lot of teenagers to get through here. Another girl is sort of throttled from behind with like a guitar string, I think, something like that.
Some kind of wiry something.
Yeah, it's people getting knocked off left, right, and centre. We get a weird like dream sequence where Angela's having a flashback, but only to like a bit earlier in the film when she was singing "I'm a Happy Camper," and it goes all like slowed down, slightly like David Lynch Nightmare.
Yeah. Because
she's I'm a happy camper, and the screen goes like blue, and you're like, whoa, this film's getting interesting. Well, it didn't last. I don't know why. I don't know what the significance of that song was.
The strange nightmarish guilt she was having.
Yeah.
Didn't really last.
Brief pang. I mean, we should say that Angela in this film is definitely the villain. There's no ambiguity here. She is a psychopath and she likes killing. She's still quite charming, while doing it, I enjoyed a lot of the Arnie one-liners that she got and stuff like that. She had a few moments like that, but I quite enjoyed her as a villain, much more than being the victim. So, of course, eventually Angela is fired for, quote, sending too many kids home. Because, yes, nobody knows that she's killing all these people because she just tells the head guy, oh, I sent them home, they were drinking, sent them home, they were fornicating is a phrase she uses a lot in these films. And eventually the guy's like, well, I told you, stop sending people home. He doesn't know that she's killing them, but he's just like, stop doing it, you're fired. So obviously she goes in a bit of a downward spiral.
It's interesting because she's always been like the tough, brutal one throughout the whole film, and then suddenly you see this kind of like weak side of her. Simply for being fired.
You feel a little bit sorry for her, but then you remember she's killed all of these people, so not that much.
Yeah, no.
So this all leads to all of the counsellors becoming suspicious of where all these missing kids are, and they haven't really gone home, and they've gone somewhere else. A scene I really enjoyed was when they find Angela's lair, which is this cabin up in the woods that no one's been to before, and they bust in there, and it's like a diorama of all the characters that have been killed in the film, which is not that new. Happens in like Halloween and stuff like that, where at the end of the film the characters like start falling out of wardrobes and stuff like that. But this was really cool because she sort of propped them up in chairs, and they were all sitting in a circle as though they were just hanging out.
Yeah,
but then
you could see how each one had died. Like there was the charred body that had been burned, and then various other things with people with like knives or something.
Like the woman with leeches all over her face, and people that had their throats slit. Yeah, it was really cool. Like they were posed as if they were still alive. And then you look a bit closer, or not even that close, and you can see a severed head or something like that.
Yeah.
In the background, there was like just a really gnarly looking corpse in a sleeping bag. I don't even know who that was meant to be. It looked like Mrs. Voorhees. It looked really weird. But TC, the head counsellor, he storms in there and goes to confront her, and straight away she throws a cup of battery acid in his face and melts his face off. Because earlier in the film, in the lost property list, it said, someone stole my car battery. Well, there you go. That's where it is. Face full of acid. One of the characters, Sean, has been beheaded and had his head stuffed in the TV. But he's decapitated. Molly is like the final girl, and they have a bit of a struggle. Angela ends up pushing her off a sort of a rocky outcrop, and she falls maybe 4 foot to her apparent death. Police obviously bust into the camp, and everyone's dead. The owner of the camp has like his hand chopped off. People have been hung up, decapitated, disemboweled, like a lot of stuff going on here. And then we discover that Molly isn't dead. She just hit her head, so she gets up and starts running away. Angela ends up hitchhiking to get out of the camp, trying to drive off in the car, and then Molly stops the car, thinking it's a passerby. And then Angela sticks her head out the window with a cowboy hat on. Says, howdy, partner! And that's the end of that one.
Yeah.
A pretty abrupt ending. I think all three of these films do have that. What were your overall thoughts of Sleepaway Camp 2?
I quite enjoyed it. I thought there was slightly more comedy in it. There was some more memorable lines because they were a bit older, so there was more stuff about sex and drugs and funny lines and things. So that was quite entertaining. Hair metal was cool. Enjoyed that.
Yeah,
and,
it was good they were a bit older. I didn't notice that until you just said it. But yeah, of course, it's moved on.
Just makes it more...
Quite a few more years, doesn't it? Yeah. Because the kids in the first film were quite young for a slasher film. They were all like in their very early teens. And in these films, they are meant to be a bit older, purely so they can get up to naughty things and then die as a result.
Because there were more deaths, that means we got to see more interesting deaths.
Yeah.
And but the ending was quite abrupt and not as significant as the first. So
it was hardly the twist that they were trying to recreate there. Oh my God! It's Angela and she's wearing a cowboy hat. Not quite the same impact, but how could you ever, how could you do that again? You can't, can you, once you've done that once? But like you say, it was a bit more comedy to it, it was a bit more knowing, we knowed a bit more, to have a bit more fun with the genre, because they knew that slashers were kind of old hat by 1988, and definitely camp films were as well, so they thought, let's switch it up and go meta and break the fourth wall. Yeah, I just really enjoyed Pamela Springsteen. I thought she was great as this character. more gleeful. I mean, the point of her being shy in the first one was that you wouldn't think she was a killer. I understand that, but this is just a lot more fun. Her one-liners and her creative ways of killing people. So yeah.
I also like the fact the policeman's son was in it. So you get early on in the film, actually, he says about like he's the son of the policeman who arrested her.
The policeman with the fake moustache, we can only assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a strange thread of continuity, isn't there? But yeah, the character Sean, we didn't really mention him too much because he's not that significant. But yeah, he was the son of the policeman who arrested her. And once he found out she was Angela Baker, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to get you now."
I gave it some kind of continuity.
A little bit of continuity, even though it's clearly a different actress.
Yeah,
playing the character. But then she's had an identity change. Who would know? So yeah, that's Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. And then we move on to Sleepaway Camp 3, which they churned out immediately after, in 1989. Yeah, Sleepaway Camp 3, subtitle Teenage Wasteland, which is quite a cool title. I would see a film just called Teenage Wasteland, personally.
Yeah.
1989, they didn't mess about. The actual, on the poster that we mentioned for Sleepaway Camp 3, is just a woman holding a bloody knife with a low-cut top. They weren't very ambitious for this one because at the bottom of the poster it says "in stores November 16." So there was no hope this was ever going to make it into a cinema, which I like. It was obviously going straight to the VHS bin. This is more again. Everything turned up to 11 in this one. We get tits in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Bloody hell! Straight away.
Hair metal and nudity, like straight out.
Hair metal and nudity. That's probably what everybody wanted from a horror film in 1989. We get this character introduced called Maria. She's got her tits out. She's got the words milk and shake tattooed above her tits. It was a strange decision. So you sort of starting to think, oh, maybe this is the main character, the protagonist in this film. No, she gets run over by a bin lorry immediately after being introduced. Angela is driving the lorry and she chucks her in the back, grinds her to a pulp, I can only assume, and assumes her identity as Maria Nicostru and heads off to Camp New Horizons. So once again, name change, Camp New Horizons. And then once the bus leaves, it just says Angela is back on a wall behind the bus.
Yeah.
So meta again. I was really pleased to see Pamela Springsteen reprising her role. I didn't know whether that would be the case. There's sort of a news crew there, and they're introducing the concept of this Camp New Horizons. It's essentially like a social experiment, but sort of like a class war experiment, because they're taking half a dozen rich, affluent kids, mostly white, and teaming them up with half a dozen poor kids from poor areas, mostly not white, which, again, these films aren't politically correct, and you're going to get a lot of playing with racial stereotypes in this film that was quite uncomfortable at
Worse than the second film.
Yes, very much. If you thought it was politically incorrect prior to this one, it really goes all out. We get the first of many. Probably what might be my favourite thing about this film is that people constantly commenting Angela doesn't look 17 years old like the rest of them, because obviously she's not. She's about 21, 22. I'm assuming Pamela Springsteen was even older. The first one of these gags is where the newsreader says, "Oh, you don't look 17." And she says, "Yeah, massive drugs." Which you think would be a throwaway line, and then the newsreader says, "Oh, can you get me any coke?"
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" And then I thought, maybe she's joking. No.
She's had such a shit of a day. I just want some coke.
Yeah. First of all, you think that Angela's joking, saying she's done loads of drugs, but then the newsreader says she wants some drugs, and then you assume that Angela's going to laugh that off. She's like, "No, I can probably sort you out." So she goes off into like a shed, so you sort of know what's coming, and she comes back with like quite a large bag. The newswoman's like, "Oh, great, thanks." So drives out of the camp, probably only about half a mile down the road, and stops to snort this coke, which starts fizzing and making her bleed out the nose. So it's obviously some sort of drain cleaner or detergent or something like that. So that was really funny.
She dies.
When we're getting introduced to our characters, obviously the rich kids are looking at the poor kids, and it's quite a funny line where the ginger girl looks at one of the guys called Tony and says, "Oh, I think he's hot," and the other girl says, "He's Mexican." Yeah. This Mexican guy, Tony, he looks like a Mexican member of Dexy's Midnight Runners. The bandana and the denim. I didn't think he did look too hot, but what do I know? We're introduced in the main building to the people who will be overseeing this, which is Marcia and Herman, sort of a middle-aged couple who are doing this camp. We're introduced to a character here called Barney, and straight away he introduces himself as a cop, and we realise that he is the policeman who arrested Angela in the first film, whose son was killed in the second film, and now he's going to be one of the main stars of the third film. So this is an impressive level of continuity for 3 consecutive horror films in the 80s. I was very impressed with this. One of my favourite characters, Mexican Tony, I did like. But there's also this black kid whose name is Riff, and he's like a hard kid from Detroit.
He's such a stereotype. He's
really stereotypical.
Loves rap music.
He has a boombox at all times.
Yeah.
He pulls out knives and guns and just tells people to fuck off constantly. It's super inappropriate, but it's really funny as well. He has just some great lines. But he gets into a scuffle with Tony in the main building and tells him to suck my dick, Spick.
Pulls him knives out.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Even more tits in this film, it has to be said. Anytime you're inside the female dorm, everyone is topless.
Yeah.
Just tits galore.
Cameraman was having a field day.
So we're back outside the dorms, and everyone has to register. Everyone has to show their ID.
And he looks at her ID, and there's no offence, but it looks like you've been through a lot in 17 years.
And she just sort of goes, yeah. There's this gag that keeps coming up, and I love it. One of the poor kids is called Snowboy, and he's constantly like graffitiing stuff and wears a leather jacket. Maybe like a punk character. He was quite ill-defined. This head counsellor Herman is kind of a pervy, sort of balding grey guy. He's really creepy. He's got a Playboy bunny belt buckle.
Yeah.
He keeps jiggling it at this girl who weirdly seems to be up for it. He starts sort of getting down to business with her in a tent. Basically gets battered by Angela. I've noticed, certainly in parts 2 and 3, her favourite weapon really is just a massive stick.
Yeah.
Just batty you with like a rubbery tree branch.
Yeah. It's insulting, really. Like, it's I can even kill you with this stick. I don't even need to burn you.
I mean, if you are in the woods, it's the most accessible weapon that there is. There's another little very brief nod here. I don't know if you caught this, but the Jason hockey mask washes up on shore.
Yes, I did see that.
They pick it up, and someone says, "Oh yeah, it's Saturday the 14th today." Clever. As far as clever as it gets in this film. We also split the kids into 2 groups. So not just the poor kids and the rich kids. We mix it all up again, and one group goes with Herman, the pervert, and one group goes with Marcia, the older woman. And that's sort of the premise for the rest of the film, is that these kids have been mixed together, the poor and the rich, and Tony the Mexican makes everyone nice burgers. And the ginger girl who fancies him, basically she says she used to have a shit, but don't worry, it's not your burgers. Like, I gotta go to the toilet, but don't worry, Tony, it's not the burgers. I thought you fancied this guy. If that wasn't awkward enough, Tony is ordered to accompany her to the toilet, and they're scared by a raccoon. One of the other characters here has his face blown off with a firecracker.
Yeah.
For like the first portion of the film, he's constantly throwing like firecrackers, and Angela's getting pissed off with it. So she lights one in his mouth and like blows quite a good portion of his face off, which I enjoyed. There's a great bit where she blows up someone's tent somehow. I'm not quite sure how. She sets the whole thing on fire. I guess tents do go up pretty easily. This is all stuff for us to be wary of this weekend, by the way. But, this guy's tent goes up in flames and he's burnt alive inside of it. And as the flames are crackling on the tent, she's got a big bag of marshmallows and a stick, which is really funny. I thought they nailed the comedy in this one even more. Yeah, it really moves really quickly. We're only like about half an hour into the film, and like a lot of people have died.
Yeah.
She just is a high body count in this film, and she's killing people. Not quite as creatively as in the second film. She's just getting through them as quickly as possible. Really, probably my favourite. You look too old to be a kid gag. The girl says, "You don't look 17." She says, "Yes, the water supply in my town had no fluoride."
Oh yeah.
It's said so quickly. You're like, what?
So deadpan as well.
Yeah. We get some really awkward racism from the character Cindy is this stuck-up kind of snob, but she's just... It starts off almost fairly innocently telling Riff to turn off his rap music. Why do you listen to rap music? He goes, why do you listen to country music? Not that she said that she did, but she's white, so she listens to country music. And it just escalates so quickly. There's N-bombs getting chucked out.
Yeah.
Very unnecessary. I quite like this death. She gets hoisted up a flagpole by her trousers and then released and dropped, and so that she goes head first into the pavement. That was pretty cool. And then Angela comes back immediately and says, she won't be back, she's got a headache. Like James Bond, Arnie one-liners. She gets a bit more of these. Quite a very weird scene with one of the sort of country boys, the country sort of football guy. They're ordered to be tied to each other in sort of like a three-legged race trust exercise and told to go fishing. And so when they get fishing, he goes, I quite like being tied up. Mm-hmm. Quite turned on. And then he sort of like leans over to have a go and she's like, no. He's like, what? I thought you were up for it. Your type always is. What does that mean? And she's like, it's this weird bondage thing, which will come back, but imagine that. You're a teenager at camp and you discover you like bondage. While fishing. You've got to learn these things somehow. The earlier the better, I guess. Angela comes back to the campsite. It's a lot of just... This film can be summed up by Angela going from one campsite to another, killing a person in one campsite, and going to the other one and saying, we need to swap, and then going back to the other one, and it's like a bit tedious. She tries to sort of confront Riff in his tent, tells him, turn the music down, turn on that rap music, and he just pulls out a gun.
Yeah.
Because he's from Detroit and he's got a gun. We get like two racial stereotypes back to back. The black kid has a gun, and Tony the Mexican is in a gang. Oh, Jesus. But, he wants to get out of this gang someday. He wants to go and live with the ginger girl in Ohio. In a weird throwback to the last episode we did, where we got a leprechaun rapping. In this film, we get Angela does a little rap. She chucks a little mixtape into the tent with Riff. And so I'll give it a go. And it's just her doing this, like, unhappy campers rap. Yeah. Which I don't remember. It's not as memorable as the leprechaun rap, that's for sure. There's a brief rap, and then she kills him as well by nailing tent pegs into him mostly, which is quite cool. Barney the policeman eventually uncovers that she is Angela Baker, the woman who killed his son, and she shoots him. It's like things aren't really given room to breathe in this film. Like, revelations are made, and then someone dies.
Immediately.
A character is developed, and then they die. There's just so many characters to get through. They're just like, here's some character development. Now they're dead. Forget about them. Here's another character. Oh, no, they're dead. It's like way too many characters in this film.
Character dies every 4 minutes or something.
The bondage guy gets tied up to a tree and drawn, horse drawn, except she's in a car.
Yeah.
Marsha, she gets led blindfolded and then pushed into like a rubbish tip.
So a load of bin bags.
It's like a load of bin bags, and it's like maybe a 3-foot ditch, and she gets pushed in and she just can't get out. And she gets buried alive up to the head. So how long does she have to be flailing about in a 3-foot grave with Angela slowly shoveling dirt on her to get up to the neck? It must have taken about 45 minutes to an hour. Is this daft?
But it is quite brutal because then she runs a lawnmower over her head.
Yeah. I suppose it was just... I would rather have it just cut straight to her being buried up to the head and not seen the build-up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do get a bit where Angela runs a lawnmower over her head, which is really good. the kids are all tied up again, the last remaining kids, and they're told they're going to play a game where there's 3 cabins behind you, and you've got to find Marcia. If you don't find her, I'll kill you. If you run away, I'll kill you. If you try and hurt me, I'll kill you. So yeah, Angela is eventually stabbed to death by one of the final girls here. Gets taken away in an ambulance with a policeman in the ambulance. Quite a funny bit in the ambulance where there's a policeman there saying, "Look, just kill her. No point in taking her to the hospital. Just kill her now. She's murdered loads of people." It's not how the justice system works. She has to be tried and taken to the policeman's just like, "Kill her now."
No one will need to find out.
Yeah, he's like Judge Dredd. So the ambulance guy's like, "Okay," and loads up like a syringe, and then she sort of comes back to life and injects both of them. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
This ending wasn't even as memorable as the last one. There was not any twist really. It was just that she will kill again and she's escaped. Sleepaway Camp 3. What were your overall thoughts of this one, Mark?
It was good. There was hair metal, tits. There was a lot more deaths. It seemed like relentlessly deathy.
Yeah.
I did quite like the whole thing about having some kind of poor campers from like poorer background and rich ones, and there was like some interesting exchanges between them. But unfortunately, any character development died off quite quickly. Literally died off quite quickly because they were all murdered. So
I think it's almost like a battle royale type concept, or like a Lord of the Flies kind of concept of putting these teenagers or young people of different social classes in isolation to see what they'll do.
Yeah,
it was a great idea, and I think they went at it really ham-fisted. Having characters call each other racial slurs and just the most basic stereotypes.
Far, really.
Yeah, they went too clunky and ham-fisted with their stereotypes, which took away from any kind of good idea that they may have had originally. Yeah, there should have been a deeper meaning, and there are probably other films that do that kind of experiment a lot better, but this is a cheesy horror film, and that's what they were going for. Again, I enjoyed seeing Pamela Springsteen's version of this character. It was even more gleeful and more witty in this one. I still enjoyed her killing loads of people, but it was just like there was no real trajectory or plot in this one. It was just a bit more brainless, unfortunately. Certainly an impressive body count and lots of tits and hair metal, if that's your thing. Yeah, so that's the Sleepaway Camp trilogy there. Mark, if you had to go camping with one of these films in the woods all weekend long and leave the other two at home, which film would you want to spend the weekend with?
I knew you'd ask me this, so I was trying to think about it.
A little tougher than previous episodes, I think, that we've done.
I'm going to go for the second one. Just put it in the middle there. It's got like more deaths, but it's not so deathy as the third one that you can't keep track of it anymore.
Yeah.
Some more interesting deaths. I think the characters are more into sex and drugs because they're older, so that like brings that out a bit more. Even though the first one had the best ending, the ending to the second one was like felt really flat. I think the rest of the film was quite entertaining and had some good dialogue and stuff in it. So.
I agree. I've yet to disagree, but yeah, I agree absolutely. I think, funnily enough, the only other trilogy we've reviewed is the Basket Case trilogy, which was episode 3. If you guys want to go back and listen to that, that's a perfect example like this of a horror trilogy where they started off cheesy, campy, but didn't know it, realised it in time for the second one and focused on all the right things. But then by the third one, it was overkill, and they'd run out of ideas. Exactly the same with Sleepaway Camp trilogy as it was, I think, with Basket Case, and lots of either horror comedy trilogies or just kind of tongue-in-cheek horror. So yeah, I think by the second one, they'd had a good 5 years to reflect on like Basket Case, they'd had a good 5 years to reflect from the first film and realise that people loved it because it was camp and stupid, and that they should amplify those particular features, and I think Pamela Springsteen just did a great job with the character from a very almost non-character in the first film, doesn't speak much, is just there to look sort of doe-eyed and innocent. It was really developed into a whole other thing. Credit to her. I would have liked to have seen her do more. We did ask people on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to leave us feedback about these films if they had any, and you guys can always do that as well. a comment from someone on Instagram called Sid the Kid 2001. So they just watched the movie tonight, the first movie, presumably, and found it amazing. My sister always loved it, but hated the ending because of the sound Angela made. And the ending was a huge surprise for me. So, like you, this is someone who's only just watched Sleepaway Camp and has been lucky enough to have not had that spoiled and have seen that amazing. Always glad to hear of people who are just experiencing that image for the first time, because it kind of stays with you visually and the noise as well.
It's going to be the most memorable thing.
Yeah.
The thing I take away from that film the most.
Yeah, people always remember that, and it's been recreated on T-shirts and posters, and I've seen an enamel pin of just Angela Baker's widened mouth expression. Yeah, amazing, iconic image. If you guys want to get in touch with us at all, you can do it. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Schlock Tactics. You can let us know what you thought of the Sleepaway Camp films, which one is your favourite, what you thought of the twist, if you've recently seen that for the first time, or what you thought of it the first time. You can also just leave us any kind of comments about other films and other episodes, and even suggest other films for us to review. If you enjoyed the Sleepaway Camp films, of course, I would recommend Friday the 13th, which is really what they were trying to get at with these films. I maintain that every Friday the 13th film is pretty good, which is why we probably won't review any of them necessarily. I mean, there are some cheesy ones, but yeah, I think the first 4 Friday the 13th films particularly is what Sleepaway Camp we're going for. The Burning is also a great early 80s slasher, summer camp film as well, so there's all those sorts of things out there. Yeah, obviously things like Scream and Behind the Mask and films like that would get much more meta. Cabin in the Woods, lots of films that would come more in the sort of 90s and onwards would play around a lot more with the idea that horror films exist within horror films. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this show and you want to hear more from us, then please do subscribe. We release 2 episodes every month, and if you're subscribed, you'll be the first one to hear them. Do leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you wouldn't mind. We are 5-star rated, and we'd like your help to keep that going. I will mention now, because we know what we're reviewing next time. Next episode we're going to be reviewing The Meg, brand new big budget shark film that's come out.
Yeah.
We don't know that it's going to be bad, but we're staking our reputation on it, so we're going to be reviewing that.
We're hoping so.
When we get a chance to see that. And we're also going to be reviewing the final Sharknado film, Sharknado 6, which I can guarantee will be bad. Otherwise, why would they do it? So yeah, that's going to be our next